ChaosCustomized. Where's my notepad? I need my little notepad. I just realized on my little notepad here that I have the title is TBGG Christmas Gift Guide. Literally like GIF, like a GIF. That's funny. Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to my 2025 Christmas gift guide, which typically in the past I've done multiple videos in this kind of gift guide or Christmas gifting series, but this year I've just decided to do one big gift guide. I'm doing this slightly later than I initially wanted to, but I'm hoping that this will go up on like the 9th or 10th of December, so it'll give you guys, you know, a few weeks to still shop for these games. And I also went through and made sure that all the games that I'm recommending in today's video, which I'm also going to be recommending other things other than games as well, but for the board games, I made sure that all the games that I'm recommending are ones that are in stock and, you know, available, because there are some games that are not available, and I don't want to recommend stuff for Christmas that you're not going to be able to get before then. So yes, without further ado, if you guys want to hear all of my recommendations and the Board Game Garden Christmas gift guide for 2025, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also, hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. And comment down below what other games and stuff you guys recommend for gifting this year for everyone watching. Would love the comment section to just be an extension of the gift guide. So yeah, do that, and let's get into this Christmas gift guide, shall we? Alright, so starting off this gift guide, I am going to be going through 8 different categories, and each of those 8 different categories I'm going to have 3 different recommendations. So the first category that we're starting with is welcoming games. So these are games that I feel like are great for anybody in your life, people that have maybe mentioned wanting to get into board games and, you know, trying to get them something that will ease them into heavier games and just welcome them into the hobby, maybe even younger players as well. So the first one that I want to mention is a game called Railroad Tiles. This has been a game that I have loved both multiplayer and solo this year, and you can actually get this in 2 different versions. The one that I mainly have is like the big deluxeified version that has all of the expansions, but there is also just a nice compact retail edition, which that one I do recommend for those just getting into board games, because it has the base game and then it also has some additional things, but it doesn't include all of the expansions, which I feel like could be overwhelming. So getting them that retail kind of smaller edition of it, and then maybe adding a few of the expansions or mentioning to them that if they enjoy that game that they can go and hunt down all of the expansions, because there are a ton of them out there. I think there's like 8 different expansions. But yes, Railroad Tiles is a game from Horrible Guild, and this is kind of a similar game to Railroad Inc., which is a roll and write game, which is another one I also recommend. But this is one that is newer to me and one that I've been really enjoying. But this is kind of a tile placement version of Railroad Inc., and it has a more tactile feel to it, because you are going to be drafting tiles and then creating what you normally would create with a pen in Railroad Inc. with tiles. And then there's additionally, like I said, some different expansions and stuff, but in the base game you are simply just creating those railroads and highways, and then also adding the people and the cars and the trains in order to get as many victory points as possible. You're going to be getting victory points throughout the game, also some victory points at the end of the game, and yes, very fun, very easy to get into, easy to teach, and like I said, the base game is fairly simple to kind of bring people into the board game, but then also it can be expanded with all those expansions. So if it's something that they really enjoy and want to dive more into it, they can grab some of those expansions and kind of expand their game of Railroad Tiles. So that is the first welcoming game that I wanted to recommend. The next game that I wanted to recommend for a welcoming game is a game called Huton Life in the Rainforest. I always forget the second half of it, but Huton is a game from the Op, and this is a card drafting game and then kind of a it's not really a tile placement game. Basically, you're going to have this grid, and in the grid, you're going to have different grouped areas. And what you're trying to do is ultimately have the same colored flowers within each of these grouped areas, because if you're able to, you're going to score victory points. And then also, you are trying to layer the same flowers on top of one another in all of these different spots, because once you have layered one flower with the same color on top, that is going to then grow a tree. And then once you've grown a tree in every single spot of one of these groups, you will then be able to replace the last tree that you kind of sprouted with an animal, and that animal is then going to kind of allow you to build more things adjacently to it. And it's this very fun, open drafting kind of efficiency puzzle in a way, where you're trying to place down these flowers in certain ways. When you do draft these flowers, you might draft a card that has 3 different colored flowers on them, and you do have to place these flowers adjacent to one another. So you can't just place them wherever you want on your board. You are really having to think about what flowers you are drafting and then where you are placing them ultimately. So Hutan Life in the Rainforest is absolutely wonderful, and it is definitely one that I recommend. Additionally, there is like objectives that you can go for as well if you want to do like an advanced game. So you don't have to play with them, or you can play with them. So for people getting into the hobby, this is a great one to just play that base game, but then also having those objectives to add. And then also you can like change up the boards and like shuffle them to change up the groupings and stuff on your board. So yes, that is Hutan Life in the Rainforest. All right, and the last welcoming game that I wanted to recommend is a game called Pergola, which this is from Rebel Studio, I believe. And this game is so beautiful because you're basically just getting different things to add into your garden, and you're going to be placing these things anywhere on your board to create this garden, but then each of the different things that you're placing into your garden is going to score in different ways. So you're going to be getting different types of flowers that you're going to be doing a little bit of like set collection, placing butterflies on flowers. You're also going to be creating kind of like a vine continuous kind of different type of flower that you're placing ladybugs on. You can gain different lanterns that are different abilities that you can use at any time. And then there's also these like hanging flowers that you can put bees on. There's these like lily pad things you can place dragonflies on. You're gonna have a frog that you're moving around. You're gonna be moving down some like water drops and stuff. And there's a bunch of different things you're going to be able to do, but ultimately on your turn, you are drafting one of these shovels that is going to allow you to do a specific action, but then also on the shovel, it's going to get you 2 things that you're going to be able to grab and then place into your garden. And then ultimately, once all the shovels have been drafted, that is going to end the game. And then whoever has the most victory points based off of all the things in their garden is going to be the winner. So yes, it is such a wonderful game. I definitely recommend it. The overall gameplay of this game is so straightforward, such an easy game to teach, but then obviously all of the different things you are getting and the way that you're going to be scoring victory points and stuff makes the strategy so much fun and so satisfying, and also just creating your garden. I think it's a good time. So yes, that is the third and final welcoming game, Pergola. All right, moving into the second category. This is the strategy game category. So this is for anybody in your life that is looking for a heavier game. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that is already like super into the board game hobby, but someone that you kind of want to get them like a next step game. I don't think any of the 3 that I'm mentioning are super difficult heavy games. I think they're all in like the medium category, and all 3 of them I would consider like a Euro game, so like a medium Euro game that I recommend for anybody in your life that is wanting to get more into board games. So the first one is going to be honestly one that I need to buy myself a copy of because I love this game, and that is Endeavor Deep Sea, which if you haven't heard of this one already, it actually recently won the I forget what Spiel award they won, but it is like the strategy game award, and it won it for a very good reason because it is a fantastic game. It is a very straightforward gameplay, but the strategy in this game is so deep and so satisfying. So it just hits that like great middle spot, like I always say, of simple gameplay but then deep strategy, which I just love. And it is ultimately like a worker placement game in a way, where you're going to be gaining some stuff based off of some track tracks that you're going up at the beginning of a round. You're going to gain workers. You're going to gain workers back from your worker placement spots. You're also going to gain a new worker placement spot, which is like a specialist. And then you're going to be able to, on your turn, use a worker, place it on one of those specialists in order to do different actions. And you're going to be expanding this board of all of these different fun like mini games, because each of the tiles that you add to the water, which is going to be different depths of water, is kind of like a little mini game that you're going to be able to work with. And there's like specific things that you can do. I'm not going to get too much into all these games, but Endeavor Deep Sea is so wonderful, and I definitely recommend you check it out and possibly buy it for someone in your life that is trying to get into heavier board games. So that is the first one, Endeavor Deep Sea. Moving on to the second game. This is a game that I will not shut up about, and I probably won't because I love this game. I recently played it solo with a new expansion that I got for it, and that is Galileo Galilei. This game is so good, both multiplayer and solo. Now that I've played it solo, definitely recommend this one. It is just, so good. If you enjoy games that have dice, I definitely recommend. And also just like dice manipulation and gaining dice and changing the numbers on dice in order to fulfill different goals. So cool. There's other things that you're going to be doing in the game, but I'm not going to get too much into it. There's a ton of objectives that you're going for, timed objectives, objectives where you're going up tracks in order to increase the multiplier for those objectives, and some great like chaining of actions as well. And just overall, Galileo Galilei, so good. I love the way it looks. I love the way it plays. Definitely recommend that one. And then the third strategy game that I wanted to recommend is one that also has dice. So this is definitely another one for you dice manipulation, dice drafting lovers out there. And that is a game called Saltfjord, which this one just recently, I believe, became more available here in North America. And this game, like I said, is a dice drafting game, and the cool part of this game is you have your own board that you're going to be adding different tiles to, and you're going to be adding these tiles into rows and columns. Both the rows and the columns are going to be activated based off of a number and specific color of die that you draft. So I could draft a white 2 die, and then I would activate everything in my specific row that is for the white 2. I'd be able to go from left to right or top to bottom, activate all of the different actions, which some are going to be actions, some are going to be resources that you're going to be able to gain, and then based off of those actions you're going to be able to do some like fishing, where you're going to be going up this track and gaining different fishing tokens, placing onto your boat. You're also going to be doing some like contract fulfillment as well, where you're going to be able to spend specific resources and able to get a tile that's going to go beside your board and get you some income, and also some victory points at the end of the game. You're going to be able to gain more tiles to add to your board. You're also going to be able to go up different tracks that are going to get you benefits and ongoing abilities, and then ultimately when you get to the top of those tracks, those are going to then unlock some endgame scoring for you as well. And just overall, this game just works so good all around. I have absolutely loved playing this. I've played it like 4 times at this point. I also do want to play this one solo because I did recently get a copy of Saltfjord, so let me know if you guys want to see a solo playthrough of that one. But yeah, Saltfjord is my final strategy game I wanted to recommend. All right, so speaking of solo gaming, I did want to recommend 3 different games that are good for solo gamers. So if you have a solo gamer in your life, or if you're a solo gamer and you want to get yourself something for Christmas, these are 3 that I recommend, and they are kind of in like a heavier, a medium, and a light game, so I wanted to recommend one of each. So the first one is the heaviest of the 3, and that is The Anarchy from Garfield Games. If you guys have watched the channel before, you know that I loved Hadrian's Wall, still love Hadrian's Wall, and Bobby Hill, the designer of Hadrian's Wall, came out with The Anarchy this year, and it is just Hadrian's Wall but different and just so good. And if you enjoy Hadrian's Wall, definitely recommend The Anarchy. If you have not played Hadrian's Wall, I do actually recommend you maybe get Hadrian's Wall and then later get Anarchy. I don't know if I would recommend going for The Anarchy first, just because it is a little bit more complex than Hadrian's Wall. So I would definitely recommend starting with Hadrian's Wall and then going to the Anarchy. But yes, fantastic. Gain resources, bump tracks. It is considered like a flip and right, I think. But basically at the start of a round, you're going to be flipping over a card that's going to get you some resources. You're going to use those resources and workers and stuff in order to go up tracks. The Anarchy is somewhat similar to that as well, but with a lot more going on, which I'm not going to get too much into. But overall, both of these games are so satisfying to play, and you're ultimately just trying to do as much as possible each round in order to gain the most victory points as possible in these 4 different categories. And freaking love these games so much, and I do recommend them for all of you solo players out there. All right, moving into the second solo game that I wanted to mention, which I actually just realized that all 3 of these solo games are like technically like roll and rights / flip and rights, but that's just the type of game that is just great solo. So the second one that I wanted to mention is The Hobbit There and Back Again. This game is so wonderful. You have a kind of dry erase book that you're going through of The Hobbit, so following Bilbo Baggins on his journey in The Hobbit, and you're going through a bunch of different chapters, and each of the chapters are going to be playing slightly different. Some of them you are doing like a polyomino puzzle, and some of them you are going through and traveling throughout this area, gaining resources, using them in different ways. And I've just loved playing through all of the different chapters and finding the ones that I enjoy most. I really like the polyomino ones in this game, but yeah, it is wonderful. It is a pure like roll and write, so you're going to be rolling dice and then drafting dice, or in the solo mode you're basically just splitting up the dice into 3 different groups and then taking one from each of those 3 different groups. And then in the solo mode you are trying to get specific things done, or specific chapters done with some rule changes, small rule changes, and then also you're trying to get it done within a specific amount of rounds, which has proven to be very challenging, which I appreciate in a solo game. So yes, The Hobbit There and Back Again, it is wonderful, and I do recommend it for any solo gamer out there. All right, and moving on to the final pick for solo games. This is actually a slightly different pick for this category, and just in general for a board game. But this is actually a book, and you can get this on Amazon, I believe. And this is a book called Dr. Finn's Book of Solo Strategy and Word Games. So that is this right here. This has been so much fun. I have just had this up in my bedroom with my little dice tray and some dice. All you need here is just some dice, some D6 dice, as well as a pencil, and then you can play all of the different games that they have in here, which all of them are designed by Dr. Finn, which if you guys do not know, he is a pretty well-known designer from Dr. Finn's Games, and there are 8 different games in here that you can play. Some of them are polyomino games, some of them are word games. There, like I said, are 8 different ones. 8 single-player strategy and word games that will keep you busy for hours. All you need are 4 dice, a pencil, and this book. So yes, I feel like this would be a fun little thing to get for a solo gamer that you have in your life or yourself. But that is my final pick for solo games. Dr. Finn's Book of Solo Strategy and Word Games. All right, moving into the 4th category. This is 2-player games, which I don't get to play 2-player games too often, but I have discovered some amazing 2-player games this year that I definitely recommend. The first one is Azul Duel, which I think this might be one of my favorite versions of Azul. I was actually going through, because I've officially played all of the Azuls, so all of the 4 different bigger Azuls, as well as now Azul Duel. And I think this one, as well as the base, like first version of Azul, and I think Summer Pavilion as well. So those 3 are my top 3. Queen's Garden is close. I also really enjoyed Stained Glass of Sutro. Honestly, it's so hard to rank them because all of the Azuls are fantastic, but Azul Duel really surprised me this year, and I absolutely love the theming of the sun and the moon, and just the kind of similarity that it has to the base game, but then also adding some different things, some fun, slightly more strategic things into this dual version. I just absolutely loved it. I love that you can customize your board and what colors you're going for, and so good. Definitely recommend this one. That is Azul Duel. All right, moving into the second two-player game that I wanted to mention. This is actually a very small box two-player game, so I do recommend this one as well for like a stocking stuffer. So if you're looking for a two-player stocking stuffer, also Penny is wandering around the office, so apologies if you hear some tippy tappies. But yes, this is a very small two-player game that is easy to travel with, and that is a game called For the Emperor. So this is one of the Allplay tiny box games. It is a two-player like head-to-head duel kind of game where basically you're going to have a bunch of different battlefields in between you, and then you are going to be playing out cards into these different battlefields in order to play the most kind of strength to that battlefield. And then once players have played all of their cards into these different battlefields, which additionally, like, there's going to be a certain amount of cards that are going to be able to be played into each of those battlefields. Once you've played, you'll go through all the battlefields, and whoever has control of each of those battlefields will get a point, and then whoever has the most kind of control of the battlefields at the end of the game will win. So yes, it's very fun. Each of the different cards, or some of them, do have different abilities that allow you to add tokens, move different things. There's a bunch of different abilities. There's like some that have endgame abilities, and it is a very fun, easy to get to the table two-player game that I have really enjoyed. So that is For the Emperor. All right, and moving on to the final third two-player game that I recommend. This is a newer one to me, and I have really enjoyed this one. This is a game called Naishi, I believe that is how you pronounce it. And basically with this game, it kind of has a similar setup to For the Emperor in a way, where you're going to be facing the second player, and there's going to be a kind of market of 5 cards in the middle. Each player is going to start with 5 cards in front of them, and then 5 cards in their hand, and all of them are going to be lined up within like the Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4, Section 5, including your hand, because you actually can't rearrange what is in your hand. Whatever is on the leftmost is kind of in line with the number 1 cards, so on and so forth to number 5. And basically you're going to be trying to create the best 2x5 grid of cards at the end of the game. So the 5 that you have in your hand at the end of the game, you're going to be placing down into those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of areas of your tableau. And then you're going to have 5 that were on the table that you're going to, throughout the game, be kind of trading with what is in the market. You have to trade with the same card that is in the same row, if that makes sense. There are some actions that you can perform on this other board. We're going to place out a token, and then some of those are going to allow you to get rid of cards and trade cards. There's going to be one ability that only one player is going to be able to do that is going to allow you to exchange a card with the other player. And ultimately you are trying to get the most victory points at the end of the game with the 10 cards that you are left with. And the gameplay of this one feels really unique for a 2-player game, and I just love the different, like, specifically having to kind of only trade things and exchange things with the same kind of depot, I guess you could say, including the cards in your hand, which I think is so cool. And there's a bunch of different cards that are going to score in a bunch of different ways, and this one is very cool, and one that I feel like needs some more attention, and one that I definitely recommend. So that is Naishi. All right, moving into the next category, which is group and party games. The first one is one that I have played a few times, and I still haven't gotten myself a copy of this one, and I really need to, because this game has created so many funny memories and just fun, like, exchanges of like people and what they are thinking, and just like such good times. The game that I'm talking about is Link City. So this is a party game where basically you are going to be creating a city together with these different tiles, and there's going to be one active player that is going to be placing out I think 3 tiles. I could be wrong. Sometimes I think you end up placing out 4 tiles for like different reasons, but you're going to be placing out 3 tiles, and you're going to need to be placing these 3 tiles into 3 specific locations on the board that are adjacent to other things in your city. Residential area, movie theater, ice cream shop, board game store, different things like that. There's going to be a layout that is already there, and then you're going to place pylons in 3 different spots in your city adjacent to other tiles that you're going to then need to place these other locations, and they are going to be behind a screen. The active player is going to determine what tiles they're going to be placing where, and kind of they're like thinking about the thought process behind which things would make most sense in your city. They're going to be behind a screen, so then all the other players have to then, once that player has decided, kind of figure out together where they think that player has placed these buildings based off of the logic of what is there, what tiles are being placed, and kind of what would make sense for your city. And then eventually, once those players have decided what they think is going to be placed where, the player is going to reveal where they place them, and then you're going to get victory points and stuff based off of if you are correct. So much fun. It's been a bit since I played this one, but I really need to get myself a copy because it is for sure an underrated party game that I think would be so much fun to play with so many different people. So that is my first party game that I recommend, Link City. Moving on to the second party game slash group game. This is another kind of cooperative, it's more of like a word-based game, but this is a game called Alibis, which I actually need to get myself a copy of this one because I don't have it yet, and this is like such a fantastic game. I recently played it again at PAX Unplugged, and it is such a good game. It kind of reminds me a little bit of So Clover, which I am going to be honest, I'm not the hugest fan of So Clover. I don't know. There's something about So Clover that like I'm okay to play it, but it's not like one of my favorite party games. But Alibis kind of brings in that word combo kind of part of So Clover that I do enjoy, with kind of cooperative deduction in a way, which I really, really like. Basically, there's going to be, I think, 12 with 1 left out, so 13 suspects. I could be wrong. It might change actually with player count as well. And all of these different suspects are going to be associated with a specific word, and then each player is going to secretly get 2 suspects of 2 words that they are going to then have to give 1 clue for to try to get the other players to guess what 2 words they have. So you're trying to kind of think of something common or something that's connected between the 2 words that you get. And then hopefully everyone is going to be able to deduce what words each player has and then which word is kind of left over. And that's going to be the one that is the ultimate like culprit, I guess. I don't actually know like the theming behind the game, but it is overall a very, very fun game. I have enjoyed playing this one a few different times, and I do think that this one would be a really big crowd pleaser for most groups. So that is my second party slash game recommendation. That is Alibis. All right, moving on to the third and final recommendation for the group slash party game. And this is more so on the group side. So it is a bigger group game that you can play with 1 to as many players as you have sheets for, because this is a roll slash flip and write game. I recently got this game at PAX Unplugged, and I have already played it like 5-6 times. I've played it solo, I've played it in, you know, a group of 6, a group of 9, a group of 4, and this game is so much fun. It is a game called Tedoku, and it is, like I said, a flip slash roll and write. So each round you're going to be rolling a die and then flipping over a card, and the die is going to tell you what polyomino shape you have to place into this grid, and then the card is going to tell you what row, column, or icon you have to be touching with that polyomino shape. So one of the squares within that polyomino shape has to be touching either that row, that column, or that icon, which the icon, there are 9 of them on the sheet of paper, kind of like a 3x3 kind of square within the grid, if that makes sense. But yes, basically you're trying to fill up your entire area. Any icons that you fill in the entire 3x3 of, you'll get 3 victory points for. Any rows and columns that you have completed, you're going to get 1 victory point for. There's like additional shapes at the bottom that you can use if you'd like instead of what is rolled. And those ones, if you have left over at the end of the game, those will get you 2 victory points. And then whoever has the most victory points at the end is the winner. And it is just so fun and so satisfying to me. It kind of scratches the itch of Sudoku in a way, hence why it's called Tadoku. But yeah, I recommend this one so much. I'm actually looking to just purchase another copy of this one because I am scared already that I'm going to run out of sheets, or maybe I should do like a lamination of the sheets so that they will never run out. But anyways, that is my third and final pick for group/party games, Tadoku. All right, moving into the final category of actual board games, and that is stocking stuffers. So I have 3 smaller games that you can purchase that are either solo, multiplayer, or both. And these ones can fit in a stocking, obviously. So the first one is going to be a game called Solstice. So this one, I've only played solo thus far, but I feel like this would be a lot of fun multiplayer as well. But basically, what is going to happen in this game is you're going to have tiles that are different colors and different numbers. And on your turn, you're going to have some of those tiles in your hand. You're going to play out one of those tiles, and then based off of if you are matching the color or the number of what is in like the little market drafting area, you're going to be able to then take one of those tiles that matches either of those things. So matching the color, matching the number, you're going to take those tiles and place it into your tableau. The interesting thing though is that all of the tiles are all of what is in the game, if that makes sense. So it's going to create a specific kind of landscape. And so if other players take some of the tiles, they're kind of taking away pieces of the puzzle. So it's one puzzle, but then each player is going to have different pieces of that puzzle, if that makes sense. And basically you are trying to kind of gather enough of those puzzle pieces in order to have connecting areas, because at the end of the game you're going to score victory points based off of your biggest connecting area. If you are able to build out 4 of the tiles in a 2x2, that's going to allow you to gain one of these little creature tiles that you're going to be able to place on top, and that's going to give you a little special ability. In the solo mode, the solo AI is just going to be taking tiles away from you and scoring for what they gain from the puzzle. But overall, this is such a unique little game. I've really enjoyed it solo, and I do recommend it. It's a small little box. That is Solstice. The second game that I wanted to mention is actually a Oink game, and this is in the typical small Oink game box, and this is one of my favorite Oink games. It is a game called Drapulter, which this is actually a dexterity game that has been such a hit with so many people in my life. It is such a fun dexterity game where everyone's going to have a bunch of different small items in their hands, and you're going to clasp onto those items, and then someone is going to flip over a card, and that's going to tell you what items you need to drop from your hand. But you have to drop them out of your hand without picking them out with your other hand. So you're gonna have to like kind of shift things around in your hand, drop the specific things. If you drop something that is not on the card, you kind of have to start over. And then whoever drops these specific items first grabs the little ghost guy in the center, and they gain a victory point, which the victory point is then a bell that you have to then put into your hand. So on the next round, you're gonna have to be dropping things, but if you do end up dropping one of your bells, aka your victory points, you lose that victory point, which is just crazy. So you're gonna have to deal with more and more victory points or bells getting into your hand, and that's going to make it more difficult for you to drop the specific items on the card. So yes, Drapulter, fantastic game. I have loved it so much, and I do recommend it as a awesome stocking stuffer. All right, and the final game that I wanted to mention for a stocking stuffer is none other than a button shy game. This has been one of my favorite button shy games this year, and that is a little solo relaxing game called A Nice Cuppa, which this one, you're basically trying to shift around cards in order to eventually have them all flipped over by the end of the game, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a little bit since I've played this one. I need to get this one back to the table because I've loved it. But yes, it is just like relaxing and simple gameplay of just shifting cards and really just puzzling out how exactly you're going to be able to do this with the cards. And I love the art. I love the premise of the game. It has a few really cute kind of expansions for it as well, which I think there's one that I don't have and then one that I do, or two that I do, but one of them's like a holiday one, which I think is cute. But yeah, a nice cuppa has been really, really fun, and one that I need to get back to the table, but also one that I recommend for a little stocking stuffer. Honestly, any of the Button Shy games I recommend for a stocking stuffer. All right, moving into the last two categories. So these are not specifically board game categories, but the first one is going to be board game accessories that I recommend. So there are 3 different things on this list that I recommend for people in your life that are into board games. Maybe they already have too many board games and you want to get them something else but still have it be board game related. These 3 are like board game accessories, so things that can be used along with board games. The other things in the last category are going to be just like board game related stuff that are not things that you're going to be playing or using along with board games, if that makes sense. So first one that I wanted to mention, there has been a ton of people that have asked me about this, but this is a custom dice tray, which technically I think this right here is not considered a dice tray. I think it's just a custom tray, but I have used this as a dice tray and it works fantastic. It's like that flexible kind of leathery material. You have the little buttons on the side and you can make it go flat. I don't, because I just keep this in my board game room, but this is the dice tray that I take up to my bedroom when I'm playing my Dr. Finn's book of solo games. But this is actually from a website called Erin Condren, which is kind of funny because I used to use Erin Condren planners religiously back in the day, before I designed my own planner. But yeah, Erin Condren, wonderful brand. They do have these trays, I was going to say dice trays, but they're just trays, that you can customize. So they have a bunch of different designs on the inside. They have a bunch of different colors that you can customize, and then also you can customize what it says on the inside. So I just put BGG for Board Game Garden, but you can put whatever you want. You could put a little saying in there, you could put your initials, you could put just like gaming, I don't know, anything you'd like on that dice tray, and it has been wonderful so far. So that is one thing that I recommend for a little board game related kind of gift. That is a custom dice tray, which I will have an Erin Condren link down below, and this is an affiliate link. I've had it for years and years and years. So if you guys do want to check out the custom dice trays and support me in a small way, you can go through that link, but no pressure. But yeah, that is the first little board game accessory. All right, moving on to the next board game accessory that I wanted to mention. These are some different things from Etsy, which if you're looking for custom, like fun board game accessories, I do recommend checking out Etsy because there are a ton of different small businesses and businesses that do that kind of thing. But the second thing that I wanted to mention was deluxe kind of components for your favorite board games. So I actually have some deluxeified pieces here from a fellow Canadian small business, and this is BG is Good on Etsy. I believe he's changed his name over on Etsy since these were sent over to me, which I will put the link to his Etsy shop down below. But his name is Robin, and he sent over these like upgrades to me, and these have been so much fun. So I have some upgrades for Let's Go to Japan, as well as SETI, which I sadly do not have a copy of SETI, but I want to get a copy of SETI at some point. But these are some really nice like components for SETI, some of the deluxeified, I think they're like the money bits and the other like energy bits. I could be wrong. There's also like a first player token and different things to use in SETI. So we have those. He also has, actually I have some for Fromage as well. They're just in the Fromage box that's back here. And then he also has a ton of different components for a bunch of different games. But overall, over on Etsy, there are a bunch of different Etsy shops that specifically do Deluxified components for different board games. So do recommend checking out all of the Etsy shops over there. Maybe just look up the game that you are specifically looking for Deluxified components for, and then it should come up over on Etsy. So yes, those are some other board game accessories. Deluxified components. All right, and lastly for Deluxified components, this is something that I believe I ended up getting these off of Amazon, but these are just a generic set of metal coins, which I have mine here in this little container. But these coins, like I said, I believe I got them off of Amazon. I could be wrong. I might have gotten them off of Board Game Bliss. But if I can find where I got these, I'm going to link them down below as well. But I feel like just having a generic set of metal coins that you can use with whatever game you want is such a great gift. There are coins, metal coins that come with specific games, but just having a set that you can play along with, you know, other games that may not necessarily have metal coins. I use these a lot with Obsession when I play Obsession. We used these when we played Botany. I pretty much use these every single time I have a game that has coins that are not metal. I'll just go grab these and then replace the coins that are in the game with these metal ones, because metal coins just always feel better to me. So yes, these are definitely a recommendation from me. If someone doesn't have just a nice generic set of really beautiful metal coins, definitely recommend. All right, moving into the final category for this gift guide. These are just board game related things in general. Just fun things that you could get for someone in your life that enjoys board games. The first thing is board game apparel, which I have a bunch of different t-shirts that are board game related from various different companies. We have TableTop, which I have purchased a few different t-shirts from them. I do believe that these are available on their website. So I have this one here, which is the Calico t-shirt. I feel like there's quite a few people that have this t-shirt. There's also from TableTop this one right here, which is the Omni Gamer t-shirt. I also have a sweater, if you ever see me in a gray sweater and it says Euro Games. That sweater is also from TableTop, but then I also have the Omni Gamer t-shirt. And then also from another board game kind of related shop. This is Tip Top Tabletop, I believe is what the store is called. I'm going to have all of these shops linked down below if you guys can go check them out. But Tip Top Tabletop also has like stickers and different things like that. I think she also has some like home related stuff as well, which this t-shirt right here is from Tip Top Tabletop, and I picked this up I think last year at PAX Unplugged, but this just says My Brain on the front. And then on the back, it says My Brain When It's My Turn, which I think is so funny. I love the art. But overall, just in general, just apparel that is board game related, I think is so much fun. This is another thing that I feel like you can find on Etsy if you just type in board game apparel, or if there's a specific board game that someone likes, you could type in that board game t-shirt, something like that. I feel like apparel is like a fun thing to have if you are a big fan of board games. So that is the first board game thing in this category. All right, moving into the second thing that I wanted to recommend for board game stuff. But this is something that I'm actually going to be doing in 2026 that I'm really excited about. And I feel like this would be something that a lot of others would enjoy doing as well. But that has something to do with a book or a journal. And that is a specific board game journal, which this is something that I'm really wanting to do in 2026. I have purchased this journal here to do a 2026 board game journal, which I have seen a lot of people on YouTube doing like reading journals where they put in kind of like a bullet journal kind of style of all of the books that they read and going through each month all of the books that they read and doing little like page spreads of their thoughts on that book and stuff. And I was thinking, why not do something similar to that, but for board games instead of books? So I am going to full on be diving into a board game journal for 2026. This one here is specifically from a brand called Tifosi or Tifosi. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, but I will put their website down below. I personally just purchased this off of their Amazon store on the Canadian Amazon, but yeah, I'm very excited for this, and maybe others out there would be excited for this as well. If you have someone in your life that enjoys journaling and stickers and just being creative, but then also enjoys board games, I think this would be a fun thing to purchase for them, and just let them know that this is a journal for them to start their own board game journal. So yes, that is number 2. And then the final recommendation that I have for this category and for this entire gift guide is a 10 by 10 board, which I've seen more and more of these coming up, and I think that this is such a fun thing to get for someone that enjoys board games, because, you know, what's not better than gamifying playing board games and being able to kind of give yourself a fun challenge, kind of similar to the board game journal, because that is like somewhere that you could put different challenges and stuff that you wanted to, but having a specific board for specifically a 10 by 10 or a 5 by 5 or a 7 by 7, I think there's a bunch of different kind of sizes for these, but having a specific board for that is so much fun. There is specifically one brand that I see that does like 3D printing of specifically each of the different games. I will put their website here, or like the name of that specific company here. I think they have an Etsy shop, I could be wrong, but it's something about Vegas. It's like 3D Vegas, something like that. But I've seen a few people talk about their boards and they look so cool, and you can specifically get like different little tokens of the board games that you want to put on your like board, your 10 by 10 or 7 by 7, 5 by 5, whatever size you want. And then you get little meeples that you can put in whenever you play that game, so you can keep track of your challenge of playing a certain amount of games a certain amount of times. I think that is so much fun and such a cool piece to have in your board game room. Also, even just like a little scoreboard or something would be fun. You could even, I believe with some of these like 10 by 10 challenge boards, you can get different colored meeples to kind of show who won that specific game. So as I'm chatting about this, I will be putting up some pictures of these different boards. I personally do not have one myself, but it's something that I've considered grabbing or asking for Christmas, because I think it'd be very fun to have. But yes, that is a custom or just fun 10 by 10 challenge or board game challenge board. All right, friends, so that is going to be everything for today's video. That is the Board Game Garden Christmas gift guide for 2025. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you got some ideas for some fun things for board gamers in your life, yourself, things to ask for Christmas. I think would be a great way to utilize this video as well. Like I said, please comment down below any other recommendations and different gifts that you recommend for people down below in the comment section. I'd love that to be an extension of this gift guide. Just a bunch of different things, different ideas for people to look through. But yes, that is everything for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button down below if you yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. I love you so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends!